Welcome to Sales Talk for CEOs. My guest today is truly brilliant. Now, I know you guys think I say this about a lot of people, but wait till you hear, right? So she's a serial entrepreneur, and from her first startup, which is very impressive, called Purifade, she developed clean tech using the byproduct of Scotch whiskey. Yeah, we drink that, right? To decontaminate industrially polluted water in Europe. And then brought it to the villages of Bangladesh to tackle the arsenic water crisis through absorption technology. Don't even understand what that is, but I'm sure she'll give us a clue. And her current passion for luxury food in space tourism. Wow, like that's coming sooner than we think, with her new company, Astria. So I am delighted today to have our guest, Shahreen Reza. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Alice, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Well, I told you already, I've been stalking you on the internet. You're doing really cool things, and I'm excited for our audience to hear about it. So let's start off by you telling everyone what Astris does, and then we're going to rewind back to when you started your first company.
Absolutely. So, Astros, you've actually caught us at a really interesting inflection point. We began the company looking at how you can actually enhance human performance to the next level. And for that, we originally were working with astronauts who are truly at the epitome of human performance. They are as fit as an Olympian, as sharp as a surgeon, and they're out there on the final frontier. And so, our first product was a high functioning chocolate truffle. So, we used Valrhona dark chocolate, and there's a brilliant chocolatier in San Francisco, Michael Ricciuti, who created these truffles. And within them, we had adaptogens and nootropics for enhanced mental clarity and focus. Then we worked with a functional biochemist who really understood the NASA roadmap that identified the gaps in nutrition. So we actually have incorporated within it all the supplements that are needed, not just for astronauts, but all of us. And then you had Astris Ultra, which is the chocolate truffle that lifts you when you hit that mid-afternoon slump. If you're a surgeon, you're going back-to-back surgeries. If you're a student or an athlete, this truffle delivers it. That's where we were. However, when we were doing a lot of our data validation studies, we realized that you could go so much further. And this is when our product took the next leap. So now with Astria's performance, we aren't just looking at how can you take a functional food and enhance your performance. We're going many steps further. For us, it's about human performance on a holistic level. So we started with the astronauts, but from there we went to surgeons. And from that, we looked at elite athletes. NCAA runners for us were a really key target because they really measure their performance. And we had advice from a human performance coach, Corey Twine, said, you know what, use Garmin wristwatch and chest strap, do some trials and see how your product performs. That's when we learned the data that we were collecting for internal validation had so much more value if we were able to give recommendations for the performers to hit the next level. And so now what we have is the development of an app that enables us to give you actual customized, personalized recommendation through an AI-powered human performance coach. And that's what we're working on right now.
Wow. Okay. Like I told you guys, she was brilliant, and I wasn't kidding. So from and Ricciuti, like you got the best chocolate ever, right? To help you making something delicious, and then going beyond that, not just delicious, in performance enhancing, and then realizing the gold is in the data. I love it. All right. So let's go back in time and talk about how did you get here? Because this isn't your first company, and this company's not very old. So I want to hear how you got started, right? And then what happened with that company, how you sold it, and how you got the idea for this new company. So take us back in time.
Absolutely. I was doing my grad studies at Cambridge University. I was focusing my MPhil on counterterrorism and security. And so I always really cared about human performance. At the time, I was in love with spies and how they think. And for me, the root of it really is the mind and what it takes to break codes, what it takes to reform and create something that's totally innovative. Originally, I was going to be doing my PhD, but I didn't find that it would be creating the impact that drives me. And so instead, I went to Sciences Po, where I studied finance and strategy. On the side, I have a great love and passion for food. So I was also moonlighting at Cordon Bleu, where I broke a lot of rules and was kicked out. But the idea was I love passion, pleasure, and performance. So in finance and strategy, I had an amazing entrepreneurial professor, and he gave me a lot of inspiration. So my very first company originated at a course where we were looking at what it takes to be innovative in marketing Scotch whiskey. There was a brilliant scientist in the Scottish Highlands who was using the byproduct of Scotch whiskey as a PhD student to look at decontaminating industrial poison water. I reached out to her. A part of the competition was marketing, but we went so much deeper and we looked at how do you create global impact. And so from that, I started my very first enterprise. We went to the villages of Bangladesh and we were using this technology and adapting it to solve one of the biggest issues when it comes to human health disasters. That started my journey as an entrepreneur. And the greatest joy was bringing together innovative minds. So we had doctors, consultants, people who worked in NGOs, people who understood finance from the investment banking world. I think for me, that really was the starting point of becoming an entrepreneur. After exiting Purifade, I was fortunate enough to have joined Palantir Technologies, originally because I love the work that they were doing in the counterterrorism security world. But my role with them originally started actually as deputy head of global business. And it meant looking at what it takes to drive the commercial world much, much further. So they were doing a lot of government contracting, but it taught me what it takes to scale a business. And I had such incredible lessons that I learned from there. I was with them through to IPO. The human performance element remained. And then when I started my own company, it was all about how do you augment that to the next level. I started Astrius.
Oh my gosh. So you've got all these, things going on that you love, right? You've got this passion for food that gets you kicked out of culinary school, right? And you've got this technology brain and these ideas, right, about how these things can happen. I mean, clean water, huge, right? I mean, it's a huge problem that we need to solve in this world. So doing that, led you to the next. And, what was it like? You're sitting around with a couple of friends thinking, wow, really into human performance and food. Like, what if we could? So how did that conversation go? Like, how did the thoughts even pop into your head?
You're not too far off the mark. I'm a great lover of pizza. It just so happened I was living in New York at the time, working with Palantir, and I was having pizza in Little Italy with a space venture capitalist and an astronaut in training, a commercial astronaut. And as I was eating pizza, I was like, why isn't there good food in space? So that really was how it started. And then I realized it's not that astronauts need good food, they need actual nutrition that enhances that performance, enables them to keep going. And our motto was we don't just want astronauts to survive, but we want them to thrive. It went from food to what is required for astronauts to deliver the best in, I would say, one of the harshest environments known to humanity. And the evolution from food to high impact performance is what led to the element of a platform that uses all the data that we're actually collecting, but makes it valuable for us. And yeah, it does start with people sitting around, having a pizza, and just talking.
Okay, so but it went from pizza to chocolate pretty fast. So
It did. Oh, that's a really interesting job. So there's this brilliant woman. Her name is Vicky Corus. She's the former head of NASA Food Lab. And we had done a lot of interviews with many, many astronauts. One of them, Greg Shamatov, was an astronaut who took the first bagels to space. And when we were chatting, he said, if there's anyone you're going to want to talk to, it's Vicky Corus. She knows inside out what it takes. And in the many conversations with Vicky, who we're fortunate now to have as on our board of directors, she identified what astronauts love. They all love chocolate. So instead of popping several pills a day, why not take a chocolate truffle that delivers all of your nutrition in a delicious bite? And I'm excited to say that Astrius did make it to the ISS, and astronauts have tried it. But when we were really understanding the problem, it wasn't even what food do they take, but you have all of these issues that they're facing. How can we integrate this and give them actionable solutions so that it's about your supplements, your food, your sleep, your exercise, and then the restorative elements. And that's where we are right now. It's looking at the 360 of your health and how can we give the expert advice for astronauts and elite athletes and students and tech works to perform at their best. I love the connection of giving something that brings you pleasure and in turn heightening your performance. Pizza gives me pleasure. It doesn't heighten my performance. Dark chocolate with adaptogens and nootropics, pleasure and performance. So that's really the thread here. What do you enjoy doing? How do we make you get better by continuing to do something you already enjoy versus making you do something that is a duty and a chore and just blah?
Yes. Very exciting to be able to eat something that's delicious and healthy. Agreed. I mean, some people find fruits and vegetables delicious and healthy, and I do as well, but it doesn't sound like it is as nutrient dense as what you've developed here that can give you a lot of great things in a small little bite. So that's amazing. All right. So here you are with Astrius, and you guys are young still, a couple years in, right? And you develop this chocolate and you're testing it with, elite performers of lots of different types. Are you selling it yet?
Yes, I'm so excited to say that we're finally selling. We decided that we were going to hold to our true origin and make sure it went to space first. Now we're in the process of connecting with people who are at the epitome of their performance, and it could be anyone, just finding the elite performer in you and allowing you to have that extra edge.
Okay, so how does this work? Do you have a sales team? Did you build a channel? How do you sell these delicious, nutrient dense chocolates?
Well, it's interesting you say that. We thought that selling the chocolate was really going to be the element of our business that we were going to focus on. But as it happens, last fall, we were identified by TechCrunch Disrupt as one of the 200 most innovative companies. And that's when we had gone with the truffles, but we also had a lot of this data that I was telling you about that we collected from NCAA runners. And we learned quickly, we were using this data as internal validation to prove that the Astrius truffles did, in fact, enhance your mental focus, acuity, endurance. But from that learning, an even greater leap was understanding that with the experts in our team that include medical doctors, registered nutritionists, really specialized people like human performance coaches who train NASA astronauts, they can add elements to enhance your performance by understanding your wearable devices, understanding, what's your sleep? How fast do you run? What are your habits? And how can we add to that? So we went from looking at chocolates as something that can enhance your performance to right now developing an AI human performance coach that is with you every step of the way in your daily task, road mapping your goals. And so that's really what we're building out now, not just chocolates, but your own personal coach.
Oh my gosh. All right. So before you even started generating revenue from chocolates, or maybe, generated a little bit, right? But you figured out, wow, we need to pivot and put our focus on collecting this data that can help humans with their performance in a way that no one else is doing right now.
Well, I think for me, a lot of the learning did come from the work I had done at Palantir and the amazing people I interacted with, because you see, people are already collecting all this data and they don't know what to do with it. We use, Garmin, Oura Ring, the Apple Health Watch, Fitbit. Very few people will go through and look at all of their dashboards and understand every point of data, and they don't know why they're collecting it. And so we're now in the process of speaking with alpha testers leading into beta testers. And the idea is, what brings you the value in your data that you could use to enhance your performance? So rather than us collecting the data, you're already collecting it. And with our app, we can then ingest the data that you have. So whatever digital device that you use, how can we take that and pair it with your nutrition? So from that, you can take a picture of your plate of food or voice it over. And then we have that connection between Here's how you're working out. This is what you're eating. But then the human in the loop is our experts that can then give real recommendations on how your performance can hit that higher level every single day. Because a lot of us, sure, you can have a coach, you can have a nutritionist, but we don't get to sit there and work with them from Monday through to Sunday. What happens when you have those daily gaps in your nutrition? So nowadays, there are a lot of apps, but they're also disparate. You have a different app for meditation. You have one app for nutrition. You have a wearable for your fitness. So we look at integrating it all into one whole, and from there, giving you really specific, personalized, tailored advice.
Wow. Well, as a high performing CEO, I am so excited. I wear this watch. I have my Aura ring. I also have those meditation apps you just mentioned.
There
Right?
you go.
But oh my gosh, like none of this information connects.
Yes.
And really, like, yeah, I do look at the reports, but then what, right? Like, so what should I do? What can I do next? What can I eat better? Or how can I get better sleep? Like, we need that next level that is not there yet. And I mean, that's going to be amazing if you can connect all these things I wear into one place. It's really going to help me continue to be a high performing CEO. That to me is amazing. So very excited about that. So you're still in development. So is it beta tested yet? Where are you?
I love that you're asking this right now. In fact, we are collecting a wait list of beta testers because for me, what's most impactful is for you to try it and use it and tell me what you think. In fact, Alice, I love that you identified you're wearing the Aura ring, you have meditation apps. And a lot of my friends who are truly at the top tier, when they go through their phone, I'm always fascinated that they have like at least 7 to 10 different apps. I'm like, what if it all lived in one place, but it spoke to you, Alice, as opposed to generalized advice? And even as women, we change. When I was pregnant, I had different needs versus when I was just a new mom. And where I am now, my kid is 5 years old and our bodies change. And with that, the demands on our life, with, I would say, the way that our body reacts to different food, different lifestyle. Some people fly all the time. And all these changes
exactly.
impact on you.
I mean, for myself, right? I do fly all the time. And I'm at that point in my life, right? Where I'm going through menopause and our body has different needs.
Yes.
We have to keep up with the changes. And, into our 50s and 60s, we still want to be high performing, but everything has changed. And so we cannot continue to do the same things. Even, women over 50 trying to exercise, our muscle mass just isn't the same as when we were young. So we have to do some different things, right? So I love that this adapts and changes with you, pulling in all the data from all the apps you're already using.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you also talked about how your muscle mass changes. It kind of brings us back to the space story, because in space, whatever you're doing on Earth doesn't work there and your whole body changes. And then when you come back to Earth, your body will have changed. So that's the journey, right? From beginning to end, we go through change. That's what marks time. It's change. But if you don't have the expert knowledge to understand how to continue to perform at your best, we're lost. And you can collect all the data you want, but if you don't have someone to help guide you, we're left being our own MD doctors. And so that's 100% what we're focusing on.
Yeah, well, we're going to Dr. Google, right?
Yes.
Trying to figure out what should I do,
You've identified something that's so core to us. Where's the trusted authority, right? You have no idea. You can type something in and you don't know what the source is, who wrote it, what their credentials are. So what we're offering is not just a trusted authority, but someone who understands specifically what is good for Alice. Because even as a woman, Alice now is very different from Alice 10 years ago and where you will be 10 years from now. But the changes you create now will last with you as you're continuing.
So I know a lot of the CEOs listening who are high performing CEOs like the two of us are going, all right, like, how do I get this? So if you want to be a beta tester, what should you do?
Yes, if you want to be a beta tester, we'd love it. You go to asterisk.co and you sign up. What I find most rewarding is looking at the life journey of our beta testers. And I remember being a teenager and being frustrated with my body. And then you blink your eyes when you're 20 and you think you've got it figured out into your 30s. And then suddenly you look around, and my mother, I remember her in her 30s, now she's in her 60s, and that jump happens so fast. So it's an issue that we feel from an individual level, as women, as mothers, and a lot of my friends who chose not to become mothers, their bodies will still continue to change. What I love is, as you mentioned, Alice, CEOs, high impact women. I speak with friends who are surgeons, athletes, and even the funny thing is, I love to call them yummy mummies or MILFs. It's a lot of work. Raising kids is not easy.
Right.
So the journey as a woman continues to change, whether it's from the professional level or the personal level. But if you look at it as a whole, putting it all together is a lot of work. And
Yeah,
no,
I love it. It's from astronauts to high performing athletes, be they male or female, right?
yeah.
To women who experience a lot more changes as they age, and especially those of us who are CEOs and want to remain at the top and have that edge. All right. So they can go to your website. We'll put that up in a minute. Gosh, our time is coming to an end, and this has been so much fun and so fascinating. I've just a couple more questions for you. So, got a beta test. What's the roadmap? When will you start selling this app?
So the roadmap is, this is the year that we're really focusing on beta testers. And one thing I learned from the journey, it's very important to speak with our users and understand what they deeply value. I personally value the element of mindfulness quite a lot. So it's not just, this is how you should eat, and this is how you should exercise. What about the restorative elements? What about breath work and meditation? There were things that seemed so silly to me. And then a mentor of mine said, Shahreen, have you tried grounding? I'm like, what is that? It's like, oh, well, put your bare feet in the grass for 10 to 20 minutes a day. I'm like, that sounds like the most ridiculous thing I've heard. Like in the villages of Bangladesh, kids run around in their bare feet and you're telling me to do this. But I listened to him, and now even when it rains and it's cold and it's pouring, I will do that. So I think for us, the more important part of the beta testing is understanding what parts of your roadmap, whether it's mindfulness, eating better, having the right supplements, having the right nutrition, is going to enable you to get to the best. And so it's not just about our roadmap as a company, but working with beta testers and understanding what's valuable to you and how can we have our experts plug in and help you get there faster and more efficiently.
Wonderful. So you're going to be improving this product as you go along based on all the feedback you're getting. Well, we're going to be watching very closely, because I know everybody who listens to this is going to be waiting for me to tell them that this app is launched in a year or so. But beta testers, beware, you can get on there earlier than that. All right. Before we part ways today, I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, what is a book that you think every CEO should read? Something maybe you read that really inspired you. Could be a business book, could be other.
The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. An Irish mentor of mine had me read that when I was in my 20s, and it was transformative. I'm Canadian, and I just, from that alone, realized that your ability to dream and think is the most powerful instrument that you have. So I would recommend that, not just as a CEO, but as a human being.
Wonderful. I love that. I haven't read it, so I will definitely put that on my list too. All right. Second one, what's a podcast that you love because it makes you think differently? Doesn't have to be a business podcast, but something you listen to.
This is going to sound silly, but I spend so much of my time in the world of business that when I have a chance to just kind of remove myself from that, I love listening to audiobooks. And I know that's not really reading, but my undergrad was in Russian literature, philosophy, and politics, and I miss literature so much. So my favorite is actually listening to audiobooks that enable me to plug back into the world of fiction. So I actually spent a lot of time in that, because for me, the joy of podcasts is my daily interaction with phenomenal people like you. But I must say, I do miss fiction.
I love Audible listening. And I, in my former life, was a reading specialist. And I'm going to tell you that listening to a book counts as reading. So
I'm so happy.
There you go. Yes. So that's wonderful. And I try to read at least one fiction book every month. I'm in a book club. It means so much to me to be able to do that. And you're right. It kind of like takes you to different places, but then it helps you think about your business differently. So I love that you you also read fiction.
And one thing I do though is I love Anthony Bourdain. So before I go to sleep, I'll read like 2 pages of his writing because it kind of draws in the real world and fiction and magic, and also understanding what it means to be tremendously successful, but then being really unhappy with your life. And that's also a great way to, for us, internalize the journey of what is success and the importance of human relationships and connections.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good one too. Okay. Last question. What does every CEO need to know to win in this marketplace?
Someone said this to me recently and I loved it. It's not a list of to do, but a list of to be. Who are you? And for me, it's always been, how do I get to that point? But now I can take a step back and say, self care. What am I doing to take care of myself? To be is so much more important, because then you realize the rat race that'll drive you crazy isn't a race at all. So that's how I would see it.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. I really appreciate it. I know our listeners are going to be fascinated by this. And it's just, I know it's a lot to take time out of your day. So I do really appreciate it. And before we go, where can people find you? So let's put up the website. And then if you want people to connect on LinkedIn,
I would love. Yes, no, that'd be fantastic. So we're at astrius.co. We do have our LinkedIn. And for us, it's really having these phenomenal points of connection with people. So find us, connect with us, be part of our beta testing crew, and it would be a wonderful experience.
Thank you. And if you do connect with Shahreen, please remember to say that you heard her on my show so she'll know how you know her.
100%. Alice, it was such a pleasure. Thanks so much for speaking with me today.